This is a vote coupon, and there's entities out there that have a whole lot more than you and I do. I talked about the book, The Invisible Doctrine, The Secret History of Neoliberalism, just a little while back, and in the back of the book, there's this little hidden gem.
We must stop the rich from buying political outcomes. One obvious solution is to create a political funding system in which parties charge members the same small, fixed annual fee. People below a certain income threshold could, if they choose, pay less, and are allowed no other forms of funding. This would provide political parties with an incentive to expand their memberships, and citizens with a major incentive to join, as their small fees would not be drowned out by far greater sums provided by plutocrats.
So a little bit of background and context into this. In 2010, the Supreme Court ruled in the Citizens United case that restricting corporations and unions from making political contributions to candidates is unconstitutional because contributions, i.e. money, is free speech. And fun fact, the lawyer that was involved in the Citizens United case, James Bopp Jr., was also involved in overturning Roe. Now, through the use of multiple 501c3s and 501c4s, which is technically nonprofits, there's an unlimited amount of bribes and contributions that can be given to candidates, as long as there is no direct coordination, a loose and often unenforceable restriction that's actually held on them. If you're interested in more on this topic, check out the documentary Dark Money Game on Max. Campaign contributions and spending have now surpassed the GDP of some smaller countries, because you can leave it to America to monetize absolutely anything. In 2024, campaign contributions were over $8.6 billion, and $5.6 billion of those dollars came from political action committees, or PACs. To put that into perspective, the budget of the National Labor Relations Board, the federal body that is responsible for upholding the worker protections provided for in the National Labor Relations Act of 1935, has a budget of $302 million. That's the federal body that's supposed to protect you and I from employers like Tesla and SpaceX. And I know what you're thinking. Didn't you say that unions are also covered by Citizens United? Absolutely, and it's something that I'm personally against. But the amount that goes into a political action committee based on union dues is incredibly minuscule when compared to major corporations and entities like the Heritage Foundation or the various monetary dumping grounds of the Koch brothers. Unions' involvement in politics has been hotly debated in the labor community since the late 1800s, and something I would like to do away with personally. I don't say that from some moral hilltop. I say that as somebody who has actually lobbied in DC for my union. Unions' political action committees might be a good cause if the union membership was able to have an active voice in how those funds are spent and who they actually went to, but a majority of the time, they don't. Often it's the business manager and the internationals that make those decisions on what policies and what candidates are actually supported, which is the foundation of the capitalist-approved corporate unionism. This is why right-to-work laws can still prevail. Workers often argue that they're not going to pay union dues to support candidates that they don't believe in. And I myself have been put in that same exact position, where I was told to support big business policies and candidates in hopes that we can keep a contract with these owners. This is what keeps labor organizations prisoners to the neoliberal system and domesticated the radicals that built the union movement in the first place. Something that would have labor leaders the likes of Mother Jones and Emma Goldman turning over in their graves. Personally, I'm against the whole electoral system we have today as a whole, and it's hard to imagine using broken tools to fix a salvage title. Having a robust, bottom-up politics with local councils being the highest authority, coupled with direct action from workers, would solve a lot of these problems. But I'm also a pragmatist, and I support anything that gives working people the upper hand. I would totally support a system in which the parties were funded by the voluntary contributions of its own members. But that's only going to make a difference if we have more than the one-party system that we do today. This system would force candidates looking for support to actually have to meet face-to-face with constituents in order to maintain the trust of a monthly contribution. And when people no longer feel served, they could withdraw their monthly support and they can put it somewhere else. A system like this could break that stranglehold that's forced on us every single day. But it's also extremely important to realize that a large amount of funds and effort is put into propaganda that is fed to the public through very wealthy funded organizations to direct the public narrative. Because the core principle of the current neoliberal empire is that there is nothing more corrosive to profit than democracy.